Okay. My name is Martisha Bell, and I'm from here, Louisville, Kentucky, in Outer Loop area.
Hello, I am Tiana Speight. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and I work at Chick-fil-A, and I also braid hair on the side.
My name is Janae Wright. I am originally from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm currently a office associate for Marriott Corporate, and I am a full-time mother. I'm also a survivor of gun violence.
That day. Waking up and still being in a state of shock that the day before I was shot. Being in a state of shock of I'm still here. Being in a state of shock of there were other victims that was involved in this. I really experienced something that I've only seen in movies before. I just couldn't believe this was happening to me. You know, I was young and my priorities went together. So it was just like, oh, we get lawsuit money. Other things started clicking in and you're not thinking about the important things that you need to be thinking about. I know I didn't have nothing to do with the drama. I was there trying to eat some burnt barbecue chicken.
Okay, so yeah, my brother was brutally murdered with a gun. Yeah. I'm not actually sure exactly what happened because there was no one there but him. But as far as I know, his car was running whenever it happened, and when the police found him, he was laid next to his body, and he had about like 4 shots in his face, in the middle of his head, under his chin. Yeah. So I was actually at my aunt's house. I had spent the night with them, and my mom called her, and she was crying, and she was telling everybody to get to the house. But none of us knew. It was actually New Year's, and so none of us really knew what was happening. And then she wasn't saying anything. And then when I realized everybody was there except for my brother, that was when I was like, something happened to him. And it was just really shocking because I would never expect anything. Him dying, he was only 28 years old. I was never expecting it, one, because he was never like involved in any like criminal activity or like gang related things. And he didn't even own a gun. So it's so strange how he could not own a gun but die by one. And it was just shocking. Really, that was like the hardest part about it, because as far as like growing up, I was expected, like, even after our parents or after everybody else, it would be me, him, and my other brothers. So that was kind of really the hardest part for me. And yeah.
I was coming home from my job. At the time, I was second shift, so it was a little late at night. It was February, it was cold. So I knew, having previously lived in upstate New York, that I needed to stop and get gas before I went home to an empty tank and wake up in the morning and be frozen. So I stop at the gas station, I fill my tank, I come home. And as I come in home, I lived in South Louisville, so we didn't have driveways. We had on-street parking. So it was normal for me to park slightly offset from my house. I didn't always get directly in front of my house. But this night I was, and I could see into our back alleyway, and I noticed a car in the lot next to me, which was abandoned and had been for years. So I thought, well, maybe it's just the guys who are working on it. It was recently bought, and they were going through renovations. I was more concerned in getting in the house. I was pregnant. I was tired. So as I'm walking up to my front porch, I noticed the gentleman coming out of the car walking the fence line. Once again, I'm thinking nothing of it. There was a ton of materials there for them to start the renovations and all that stuff. I'm thinking they're just there to collect some things or maybe drop some stuff off so they'll be ready for the morning. Well, once I get to my porch, the young man is now in the front yard. So I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe he's gonna ask me for directions. He's turned around, but he's hot-tailing it towards me. He's dressed in all black, but it's cold, hood's on. But then once he gets to me, I realize, okay, this is not, and before I could say anything, he was, give me your money, give me your money. And he had the gun in my face. And I was just, I'm feet from him. The gun's inches away from him by the time his arm is extended at me. And so I'm, okay, don't do this. I'm pregnant. You can have it. Just, take everything. I'm starting to put my belongings into my purse because I had my phone and my keys in my hand. I was about to go in the door. And before I knew it, I went to hand him the purse and he just started shooting me. And so in total, that night, I thought I was shot 3 times because the third one made me drop and I just fell to the ground instantly because it actually hit my femoral nerve, which sits very close to the femoral artery. And had I been struck there, I wouldn't be there with you today. So upon arrival to U of L, it was made aware that I was actually shot 6 times, 5 in my lower abdomen and 1 in my hamstring. So my child and I were very lucky to survive. At the time of the shooting, I didn't know that my baby had made it because of so many different injuries in my lower abdomen. Naturally, you would assume pregnancy has been terminated. You would think there's no way a baby could survive this event. Even me, myself, I was hanging on at one point of the stretcher thinking, this is it for me. I remember specifically telling the EMT, please do not let me die. This will crush my family. Because majority of them did not know that I was pregnant. I only had 2 family members aware of the time of my pregnancy. So, with that being said, I just knew, they'll be so hurt. We haven't had a baby in the family in 20 years. I knew how excited they would be. I had it all planned out that on February 14th, Valentine's Day that year, I would announce it to them. Here we were, February 8th, and I was laid out dying as far as I was concerned.
The realization that really hit me was a few weeks later, my daughter started speaking in full sentences. And I had the reflection of, wow, I was just shot 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks later, my daughter is speaking in sentences. If my life was taken, I wouldn't have been able to witness this. I started becoming more grateful for very small things just because I started realizing how precious life was. She was 2 when the incident happened. I feel like for me, I live a lot in PTSD. So I'm making things harder for other people because I'm always like, oh, make sure you're watching your surroundings and you don't want to be somewhere where there's a group of people and they probably may not be in their right state of mind. They just start shooting. It makes you paranoid about things that you shouldn't really be paranoid about. You should want to live more free. And when it comes to my mom, she was in a state of like, oh my goodness, this happened to my baby. But I'm still in a state of shock of, oh, like this really happened. It was a high on 2 different sides. A high for a mother who could have lost her child, but then a high for a young adult who's living this lifestyle of not realizing that you have to be very cautious of where it is that you choose to surround yourself. When you're watching these movies and things, you don't really realize that this is real life, wanting to be around the drug dealers and, where the drama is. All those other things come with those environments, but you're so much on the high of, oh, I'm in the mix. Yeah. Being in the mix is just not where it's at. That incident also made me very afraid being around my people because when I was at Southwick Cotter Homes Day, it also happened to be a day of celebration for my best friend. Her cousin just purchased a home. So while other people were there for a different event, we was having our own separate event. And I just began to realize how careless we are when we have issues with other people and we don't realize the cause and effect that it can have on someone else's life. So being an innocent bystander because of someone else's carelessness.
I just want to say that I have personally been affected by gun violence, and in a way it's heartbreaking because it's like a non-stop chain. Like it happens once, but it can't end there. It has to keep going, or the next person has to get the person that did this and did that. And so it kind of puts me in like an uncomfortable space because regardless of if you've partaken in any kind of activity, like you never know what can happen to you when or where. On a positive note, I feel, even though it's so horrible that like death has to do this, but I feel as if now my family is more like close-knit and serious about the way we treat each other because again, his death was like so unexpected. It makes you really value your life. And I feel as far as me and my family, we are valuing life more because life is uncertain and you never know when your last day might be or what might happen to you. So now we've kind of learned to let the people we love know that we love them.
Yeah, I actually now, before the incident, I was a very outgoing person. I was super open, extroverted, I'd go as far as to say. Now I struggle with PTSD and paranoia, so I tend to shy away from large crowds. My social life is nearly non existent. Um, 4th of July isn't the same. I don't like balloons because balloons pop, fireworks. I don't even the flash on. If I don't know that a camera is gonna flash and it just flashes, it triggers me because the shooting occurred at night, and what people don't realize is a gun flashes. So you see that before you realize you've been shot. So, yeah, life has definitely been different. Me then versus me now, and I'm also a mother now, so that's heightened my sense of awareness with having my son.
In a way, I kind of feel like I am. I know that in the end that I'm still the same person, but as far as the way I treat people and the way I look at life, I feel as if I've changed in that aspect. So as far as the way I treat people, um, I'm trying to be as kind as possible always to anyone because you never know what they could be going through. And for me, people always see me happy and smiling. And some people might never even know that, like, my oldest brother passed away. So even behind all the hurt and pain, people can still smile and still be happy. So that's made me learn to treat people better because you never know at the end of the day what somebody's going through just because you know them from school or work or church or just outdoors. So I'm learning how to treat people better. The next thing, as far as life, it's making me live. I've learned to kind of grow into living with no regrets. Live every day like it's my last because again, life is uncertain and you never know. And for him to be 28 and he still hadn't like accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish, I'm no longer going to play with my talents or the skills that I have. And I'm going to try to reach every single goal that I have for myself because, again, you'll never know when your last day is your last day.
So, because of my injuries, it resulted in me being temporarily paralyzed in my left leg. The left leg had no mobility whatsoever. So I went from wheelchair to walker to cane and to regain my full mobility again, which was a struggle because at this point I was also too progressing in my pregnancy. So as the belly grew and ligaments were separating and joints were loosening from my body, in areas that were injured also, it made it a really struggle. Really, my son, knowing that I had to stay alive so that I could be someone's mother. I always dreamt of motherhood, and I was really excited for my pregnancy. And so I didn't want this to be something that overshadowed that. The journey of healing from being shot could not take the place of my excitement for my journey of motherhood. So that helps keep me going. My family was a very strong support system. Thankful for my dad. He's, my rock. He was by my side. Um, I've got a handful of people who I could name. However, those people know who they are and they continue to support me still. But I would give it to, and also with my faith, a lot of people, have their different beliefs, but I know that my mother was here with me that night. She's no longer here with us present day, but I felt as if she just watched over us, and her and God made it to be that we were here today.
What I've learned is that when you're providing a service to people, it brings fulfillment to you because you're finding your purpose. Yeah. But I do get really antsy when it's dark. Mm-hmm. I do get really antsy if I cannot read people's body language. I'm a very people person, so I like to just speak that way I can have the opportunity to serve somebody. Yeah. So, hey, how you doing? But if their energy's off, I'm like, oh my God, like, are they gonna like pull a gun out and just start shooting people? It goes straight there because it was something that was never expected on top of the fact my cousin was once in the streets, and me and my mother was an innocent bystander being robbed because of him. They was thinking we were stashing drugs at our house. So it's like a double whammy of being an innocent bystander, but you're catching the big end of the bad stick just because of the people you choose to associate yourself with. Right. It helped me to realize that we're all up against a different fence. And if I can put myself in someone else's shoes, we can bring more healing together. So where the incident happened with my shooting, which was also not too far from where me and my mother was robbed, I took that opportunity during COVID to put my fear to the side, and I started cleaning up at the Greenwood Cemetery, which is a cemetery that is being neglected. And I found so much joy going down there that it helped me to get more in tune with my spirit. And that's when God was like, you're going to do a nonprofit and it's going to be called Clean as the New Me. And I was like, what? Like, it was just so much joy. And now I'm able to realize that we tend to turn to certain crowds because we feel like that's where our identity is, when in our actuality, our identity is way deeper. We need to take the opportunity to understand that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So when I look back on being robbed, yes, my cousin was in the streets, but maybe that's just what he felt like was best for him. That doesn't mean he's a bad person. So I can give that deliverance to someone else. I can help someone else see they're not drug dealers, they're CEOs, but they just don't know yet. So how about we take the opportunity to help them to understand, hey, you got product, but you would need product if you're over this organization or if you have this calling. Helping them to see that there's something different. And the only way that we can actually do that is working within, continuing to see ourselves in people, helping people to see they're not their problem. Like, I don't want to be no Babel thumper to anyone. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to be transparent with people to help people to realize, hey, I'm just like you. Yeah. I just didn't, with my daughter being in a wheelchair and me having a son myself, I had to say to myself, do you want your children in the mix of something that they have nothing to do with? My daughter, she's not going to be able to defend herself if I'm wanting to be in the mix with people that is doing bad deeds. Mm-hmm. When it came to my cousin, they couldn't get their hands on me, so they go to the next best thing. That's what I had to learn from that. And it rains on the just and the unjust, so I just want to keep on doing good to people. I just want everyone to know that you are beautiful, flaws and all, because that's what makes everyone unique. We're not here to be like anyone else. We're all here to be that wildflower in the field. So keep blooming.
I know I've said this already, but please make sure that you check on your family. Make sure the people that you love know you love them, because you never really think twice about it until it happens to you. And if you have anybody that's grieving about anything, don't invalidate their feelings. Try to comfort them as much as possible, because before this happened to me, I've had like previous family members pass away, but I never understood how like 10 years later people could be the same sad and like crying and crying and crying. I never understood, like, it's just like that was 10 years ago. How can you still feel affected by it? But now I guess I can kind of see, because it's not really about them dying. It's more so about trying to figure out how you live without them. So just don't invalidate people's feelings, and please take advantage of your life in every single opportunity you have, because again, life is uncertain. And even though it might not feel like that because you wake up every morning, but people die every single day in every kind of way. So value your life.